Hello everybody and welcome back to our Royal Reader. My name is Cece and today I'm going to be talking about the book series that I want to read in 2021. So this list mainly is comprised of adult fantasy. Not gonna lie, I don't think there is very many other genres on this list, but anyway, let's just get into it. So the first series that I have on here is one that I'm sure everybody else wants to be able to read throughout the month of 2021. Jeez, this is confusing. This is what happens when you film on the last day of the year. That is going to be the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. This is a series that I have heard a million and one things about and I have just been very interested in reading it. It's an epic high fantasy series that involves people who are able to ingest metals and then they can have powers from the metals. It sounds really vague, but I've heard amazing things about it and everyone seems to enjoy it, so I want to give it a try. Following on with the Brandon Sanderson theme, we have the next series, which is going to be the Stormlight Archive. I have always been interested in this series, specifically because of the covers. The fact that the publishers end up splitting these books into two is really interesting in my opinion, and I love the fact that all of Brandon Sanderson's books have a very similar book cover throughout the entire range of all of his books. They have a very similar sort of white cover with the character on the front and then one pop of color. That is what really drew me into Brandon Sanderson's books in the first place. So I am interested to see this series and what it is about. I know that it follows two different kingdoms, I think. And on the day of a treaty signing, the king of one of the kingdoms is assassinated by the other kingdom, and then it sparks this whole crazy war, I guess, in a way. And it follows a large variety of characters, which most of Brandon Sanderson's books have. So I am interested in seeing what that exactly sort of sparks. So yes, plus Brandon Sanderson is a well-known epic fantasy writer and I do want to be able to take some inspiration from him because I think that his writing is going to be quite influential for writing characters, so I want to be able to read some of them. Now the last, I promise this is going to be the last Brandon Sanderson series I talk about, and that's going to be Skyward. This is his YA sci-fi series, I believe. I don't know how many books is going to be in the trilogy, but I have the first two already. I'm interested to see how his writing compares from being adult to YA. So yes. In this series, I believe we have our main character Spencer, who has to deal with the fact that her father is labeled a traitor, and the sort of repercussions that has on her and her family throughout the years, and she is attempting to go into this flight academy school because her father was a fighter pilot, I think, for the army, I think, possibly the galactic army, and they don't want her because her father is a traitor. So that's about as much as I know about this, and I don't really want to know too much more because I think going into sci-fi series I do want to know as little as possible so that when things start to happen I am more surprised. Alright, going on to the next epic fantasy that I have. That's going to be the Game of Thrones series by George R.R. Martin. Yes, I know, I am a basic bitch. I absolutely love this TV show, except for the last season. We do not talk about that. But I have always been interested in reading it to see how it compares, and yeah, I finally have all of the books so I can start it whenever I want. And yeah, it's another sort of one of those like classic epic fantasies that I have seen so many people sort of rave about. And yeah, so next we have a epic fantasy that was released earlier, and it's going to be the Devabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. This is an Indian mythology sort of inspired fantasy that follows our main character Nari, who is a sort of con woman of sorts. She cons people into thinking that they are, you know, dying of some sort of disease and sends them to her friend who is a healer, I suppose, or something that sells like you know, herbs and things, and they con people out of a lot of money, and she gets a small amount of them. And one day when she is doing a con, she ends up somehow accidentally summoning a warrior djinn, who then takes her to the magical city of Brass. So that's as much as I know. I don't want to know too much more, but I know that a lot of people really love this series, and they have said nothing but good things about it. So I do own the entire trilogy, and I'm excited to read it, basically. So next is one that I just decided to sort of tack on at the very end, and that's going to be the Hobbit / the Lord of the Rings series by J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't remember how to pronounce it, but I started listening to a theatrical production, dramatized version of the audiobook for The Hobbit, and I just absolutely loved it, and I found the writing style really enjoyable. I know that The Hobbit is obviously written for a younger audience, and that the Lord of the Rings series is more so a adult fantasy, I think. But either way, I absolutely love this series. The movies are definitely a nostalgic and iconic series for me, so to be able to read where it came from makes me really excited, and to be able to see the different sort of scenes that weren't included and more of the backstory and lore behind the world makes me really intrigued, because I always struggle trying to remember like names and people and stuff like that. I'm like, wait, why is Aragon like that? So I'm gonna be able to read it and actually find out stuff, so that makes me excited. So next is actually a middle grade series. I think, I'm not entirely too sure, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's going to be His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. I watched The Golden Compass for the first time ages ago, like years ago when it first came out, and I was 1, thoroughly terrified, and 2, very intrigued, and 3, had me wishing that I had a daemon of my own. So the fact that I found a bind up of the series made me really excited to actually start it and finish it. So I did attempt to read The Golden Compass when I was like 12 possibly, depending on when it came out and stuff like that, but I don't think I was fully prepared to go into it, so I want to be able to reread it, and I know that it's a lot of people's favorite and that they really enjoy this series. So yes, and I want to be able to read it before I watch the BBC adaptation of it, so yeah. And next is a series that I only discovered back in 2020. I had known about it sort of, I think possibly maybe previously, I'm not entirely too sure, but that's going to be the Witcher series by Andre, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, so the Netflix series came out back in 2020 and I absolutely adored it. It was amazing. I just fell in love with the world immediately, and then discovered that it was actually a book series instead of a video game, and thus got all of the books. So I cannot wait to see this and discover exactly what the world is and stuff like that, because I don't know how long it's going to be until the next series comes out, the next season, sorry, comes out, because COVID and God knows what else. I don't exactly know what this series entails, but from watching the Netflix season, basically we follow our main character Geralt of Rivia, who is basically a monster hunter, but they call him a witcher, which from what I can gather is a person who has sort of special abilities that makes them able to hunt down monsters better than like the average human. And he is sort of stuck with this girl princess called Ciri. I don't exactly know too much more about that. There's also a witch called Yennefer of Ben something, I don't know. She was fucking amazing in the TV series. I loved her so much. But yeah, that's basically all I know about it. The first season of the show didn't really give you much info. It was definitely a setup to what is going to happen in the latest series, so it just sounds amazing. And the fact that I'm going to be able to picture Henry Cavill being Geralt throughout the entire book series is just... The next one is a, I think, possibly middle grade, possibly a YA fantasy, I'm not entirely too sure. That's going to be the Magnus Chase series by Rick Riordan. This is a sort of like Percy Jackson book, but instead of having Greek gods, we have Norse mythology. So that just intrigues me a hell of a lot because I am obsessed with all types of mythology. It's a nice thing that I like to read about. And so because I loved Percy Jackson, I really want to pick this series up. I didn't want to pick it up before I had finished Percy Jackson, so that's why I haven't actually picked it up ever. So yes, we follow our main character Magnus Chase, who I believe is trying to stay hidden or something or other, and it ends up having to live with his uncle, who then tells him that he's a demigod or something along those lines. I'm not entirely too sure. I just know that it's got Norse mythology and it's written by Rick Riordan, and so I know it's going to be good. Going on to the second last series that I have on this list is going to be the Winter Night trilogy by written by a lady, and this is a sort of adult fantasy that is got Russian folklore and mythology elements in it, I believe. I don't know too much about it. I just know that everybody really enjoys it and that the series makes them cry and sob. So I'm interested. Not a lot of books that I've read in 2020 made me cry very much. I think only 3 books did. So I am intrigued to see if this will make me sob as much as those ones did. And the last series that I have on this list is going to be the Farseer / the Elderling series by Robin Hobb. You guys may have seen this book going around YouTube for quite some time because Becca from Becca and the Books is doing a read-along of all of these series, and unfortunately I came onto BookTube well after it had started, so I couldn't exactly catch up. But basically it is a very expansive series, an epic fantasy that follows the main character called Fitz, who discovers that he is actually the bastard son of a prince and is sent to live with him in the castle, and then is sort of trained to become an assassin because he's sort of in the royal family, but he's sort of not in the royal family, so he's like the perfect type of person. And throughout his years he discovers that he has this magical ability called the Wit, which is where you can talk to animals, I believe. I'm not entirely too sure, but that's just the first series, which is called the Farseer trilogy. It then in the next couple of trilogies changes, I believe, and follows a whole bunch of different characters and things like that. I am just very excited to see this because I think this is going to be the first series that I read that has a very expansive world, I guess you could say, because these series are all set in the same world. So that makes it really intriguing to me because, like I said, I don't think I've read a series that does that. So yes, because they're all different series, but they're all in the same world and they all follow different things. So that makes it really exciting. Alright, so those are all of the series that I want to read in 2021. I don't know how I'm gonna get it done, but you know, I'm gonna try. It'll be a difficult time, but you know, I can at least start some of them. I'm hoping to finish some of them because, you know, some of them are only trilogies, so that should be interesting and easy to do. Yeah, possibly, I don't know. If any of you guys have read any of these, please let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. I would love to see what you guys think of them. I am excited to read them and get my own opinions of them as well. So if you guys want to see my opinions and stuff, then please be sure to subscribe, as well as check out my social media links that I have listed down in the description box. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads, all that good jazz. So please go ahead and check those out. So that will be it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you guys in another one later on.